Hello, my name is Michelle Griffin, and I'm the new Director of Performance Improvement here at Brownville Memorial Hospital. I am responsible for quite a few different standards, and I wear a few different hats. These include quality assurance, patient protections, infection control, safety, risk management, and staff education. From the looks on everyone's faces, I can tell you're asking yourself, why am I here today? It's a good question. I'm here to teach you about health literacy. We'll go into the important information that I need to share with you first, and then we'll break out into small groups and do an exercise. Recently, we got our scores from the Press Ganey satisfaction surveys, which are how our patients and family members rate us on several different things, from how we communicate with our patients all the way to would you recommend our hospital to your best friend. Unfortunately, some of our communication scores are quite low, so this will be the first series of a few to begin raising our scores and bring our awesome hospital to a higher recognition level. I have a quote that stood out to me while reading our survey results. I put it here on the screen for you, and I want you to imagine yourself as one of our patients feeling this way. How many of you have heard of health literacy, besides in my title? Okay, so let's be a patient again for just a minute. But this time, let's be a 70-year-old grandmother from rural Brownville. I am your doctor, and I want to go over the procedure you're going to have tomorrow. The questions I'm going to ask myself are, how difficult is this information for you to understand? If you were my grandmother, how would I explain this to you? How can I, your doctor, know if you're understanding what I'm telling you? Are you just nodding and smiling at me? Can I give this information to you in a way you will understand? In other words, what ways can I have you relay this information back to me so you understand what's going to happen to you? Now, a little bit more information about our hospital and our community before we move further. Did you know that 35% of our patient population does not speak English as their first language? We have nearly 500 beds here, and we serve nearly 1 million residents in our area. So I challenge each of you to be a communication hero. Okay, Michelle, so what does that even mean? I have two main areas of concern that I really want to focus on during this training with each of you today. Communicating clearly with our patients and addressing language and cultural differences. In order to communicate clearly, it's important that you know a few national numbers. Nearly 90 million Americans are not able to understand health information. 40 million Americans are unable to read. Just because you have a master's degree in biology does not mean you're going to understand what your blood test results mean. So if you with your master's degree doesn't understand, how are our patients that did not graduate high school, how are they going to understand? Next, we need to address health literacy from a cultural standpoint. I can speak with some broken Spanish, but that doesn't make me an expert in communication with my Spanish-speaking patients. And I can go a little bit more into that in a few minutes. So let's think more about this for a minute. So why is clear communication so hard in healthcare? Okay, so here I am. I'm your doctor again, and you are my 70-year-old grandmother. You have nodded and shook your head yes to everything I have said. You got it all, right? We can stop talking now. Nope. Maybe you're just embarrassed because I am the age of your youngest grandchild, and you don't want to ask me any questions. Or maybe I look like the other doctor that has already explained this to you, because let's be honest, doctors travel in packs. One is a resident, one was a nurse practitioner, and you just really can't remember if you've already seen me. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, gosh, you already explained this to me a few minutes ago. You are 70, you have congestive heart failure, and you've been short of breath for 3 days, and you're just really too tired to ask me for clarification. Or worse, you're so scared of having this procedure and not understanding why, it's just easier for you to nod yes to me. So let's put your hero capes back on, because I'm going to give you a few ideas on how to help 70-year-old grandma better understand what you're trying to tell her. Try using a visual aid. You will notice that my slides are not the same format, the font is quite large, and everything is fairly simple to read. Try that with Grandma. Using a visual aid that she can see better than something that's in small print. So draw the procedure, print something off in a large colorful print so she can visualize it. Next, use simple short sentences. Grandma, unless she was a heart surgeon, has no idea what all of your fancy medical jargon means. So simplify what you're trying to say to her. Be supportive. Ask her how she feels about the procedure. If she says she's scared, spend a couple extra minutes with her to support her in those feelings. Encourage her questions. And by this, don't just ask her if she has questions, but ask her specific parts of the conversation and see if she even remembers any part of the conversation. And lastly, use the teach-back method. This ties it all together. If she's been able to understand what you have said and what you're planning on doing, she can tell you that and teach it back to you. I can see it in your faces. Michelle, you've lost your mind. We don't have time for all of this. I'm a nurse, I have 4 other patients to care for, and I don't have time to sit down and sip tea with Grandma. If I do, who's going to take care of her neighbor down the hall? Trust me, I've been in your shoes. The 12 hours you spend with your 5 patients is a long time, and it's hard to give each patient all the time they need and get all the other thousands of things that we've asked you to do done during the day. But if we don't spend that time with each patient, how are we going to make sure their needs are met, and how are we going to ensure that they're ultimately safe? Okay, so now 70-year-old grandma speaks Spanish only. Think being sick is hard? Try being sick and understanding all the information we are giving you. Oh, you didn't know I spoke Spanish? Or maybe I just arrived from Tanzania. And there I'm lucky enough to get a hospital bed with a mosquito net, much less to be put into a CT machine or an MRI. Or I'm from Mexico visiting one of my grandkids, and you just said a cat was going to scam me. Okay, all joking aside, there are many different federal and state level programs for health literacy. I've listed them here for you. I'm not going to go into each of those. However, I encourage each of you to look them up, especially once this training is done. And I'm happy to discuss any of them with you one-on-one. So now for the fun stuff. We're going to do a small group exercise. So the purpose of this exercise is to identify the areas that need improvement when communicating with our patients. This includes cultural barriers for individuals who speak English as a second language, and also to identify ways to assist patients and families in their native language. The learning objectives here are to practice plain language, know your own health literacy, know where resources can be found, and learn to speak to all patients, regardless of their language. You know, a good quote from Einstein, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So the materials you're going to need for this exercise are the computers. There's laptops located on the desk. There's paper and pencils also located on the desk. The health literacy for public health professionals training, which is located on the CDC page. I want you to watch this video. This is bad enough. Also, examples of patient discharge instructions are here in English and in Spanish. We're going to focus on Spanish. So we have quite a large Hispanic population. And then the badge cards with interpreter phone numbers for you to take when we're done. So first, in order to complete the exercise, I want you to break into small groups of no more than 4 people. First, you're going to take the health literacy for health professionals training. This is going to take you about 30 minutes. Please don't use your teammates for this. I want each of you to score yourself honestly. And then when everyone's done, talk within your small groups on how well you did, or areas that maybe you need to improve. After all, we're here to learn, right? Next, I'm going to have you role play within your groups. So within your groups of 4, I want you to pair up with one other person. One person's going to be the nurse, and the other person's going to be the patient who speaks another language. Yeah, I know, you're not actually going to speak the other language, but there's a language tag with the specific language listed on it. The goal here is for each of you to see if you can locate materials related to discharge instructions in the languages that are on your language tag. If it's not clear, just raise your hand and I'll walk around and offer help here. However, the goal here is to make you aware that of all the different languages spoken by our population and where to find the resources for those languages. Next, this is still related to the role playing. I want each of you to figure out how to print the discharge instructions in the language on your language tag. It's actually pretty cool because you may not have known that our electronic medical record actually has a place for you to point and click so you can print everything off in the language that you need. Next, we're going to come back into our large group and we're going to have the Spanish interpreters come and do a brief introduction. And they're also going to provide you with all the resources we have here for our Spanish speaking population. And lastly, once we're finished, please make sure to fill out the survey that's sitting on the table. It won't have your name on it unless you want it to. However, I have no idea how I'm doing as far as getting the point across to you and educating you if you don't tell me how I'm doing. So please fill out the survey. I'll remind you again at the end and just leave them on the table when you're finished. All right, that's all I have. Any questions?